Right then, pour yourself a drink. You're going to need it. And no, not that fruity nonsense with an umbrella. Something with a bit of a backbone. A gin, perhaps. Good. Now, settle in. I want to tell you a story. A modern British fable, if you will. It is a tale, not of heroes and dragons, but of, well, let us call them untruths, and a rather startling lack of tumbleweed. You see, out here in the Assam region of Thailand, life is simple. The sun is hot, the mangoes are sweet, and if the man at the market tells me a mango is sweet when it is sour, I do not go back. It is a straightforward system of accountability. He loses a customer, I get my mangoes elsewhere. Civilization in its most basic form. Now, imagine if that principle was applied to the House of Commons, a place, I remind you, that is meant to be the very beating heart of our British democracy, a place where a man's word is supposed to be his bond. Apparently, that concept has become as outdated as a stiff upper lip. It brings to mind a rather splendid old quote, often attributed to Wilde, about losing one parent being a misfortune, but losing both looks like carelessness. Well, apply that to the business of the House. To tell one lie to the House of Commons would be unfortunate, a genuine scandal. The papers would have a field day. Two lies, well, that could perhaps be attributed to carelessness, a bit slapdash. Not how we like to do things, but these things happen. However, the third, the fourth, the fifth, 5 separate untruths deliberately designed to mislead Parliament over one of the great spying scandals of the post-Cold War era. We are not talking about nicking a biro from the stationery cupboard. This is about a hostile state, China, allegedly infiltrating our political and defence infrastructure. It is the sort of thing which, in a bygone era, would have had men in tweed coats reaching for their smelling salts. The scandal itself is a national disgrace, a proper mess. However, what is equally and perhaps more insidiously disgraceful is the sheer unadulterated gall with which Sir Keir Starmer is getting away with it. I was watching the news the other day and a gecko fell from the ceiling into my lap. Startled me half to death. However, do you know what was more startling? The absolute deafening silence from Westminster. You could hear a pin drop. Or, more accurately, you could hear the gentle rustling sound of tumbleweed rolling through the corridors of power. It is the sound of accountability packing its bags and booking a one-way ticket to a country that still cares. There seems to be no mechanism, no lever, and no rusty old procedure in the ancient palace to force the Prime Minister to explain himself. It is quite remarkable. We have built a system that can track a package from Bangkok to my house in real time, but we cannot muster the collective will to ask the most powerful man in the country why his story keeps changing like the monsoon weather. Now, to be fair, it is not completely silent. There are a few feisty Tories and I believe a couple of Reform MPs, you have to give them that, who keep prodding and probing like dentists at a rotten tooth. They drag a succession of poor, beleaguered ministers to the chamber to explain the manifest inconsistencies. Moreover, what happens? These ministers, poor souls, stand there shuffling their papers, looking like school children who have not done their homework, and proceed to make themselves accessories to the Prime Minister's deceit. It is a masterclass in obfuscation. They talk in circles, use long words that mean nothing, and leave everyone more confused than when they started. It's enough to make you spit out your gin and tonic. On top of that, this is where the story takes a truly farcical turn. You must remember the great Capegate scandal. Boris Johnson, hauled over the coals, investigated, hounded, and ultimately brought down. over a piece of cake. A piece of cake. I am not defending the man. Rules are rules, but the proportionality is utterly bonkers. One man's political career ends over a Victoria sponge, while another's continues unabated after 5 direct falsehoods to Parliament about national security crisis. It is like being fined for jaywalking while a bank robber is given the keys to the city. It is time he was held to account. Nevertheless, wait, the plot, as they say, thickens. While this Chinese elephant is lounging in the corner of the living room, what are Sir Keir and his liberal sidekick Sir Ed Davey focusing on? They are going out of their way to badmouth Nigel Farage. Oh yes, spinning like a top about what Farage said about Putin years ago, and dragging up some former Welsh UKIP MEP who admitted to taking bribes from a Russian. It is the oldest trick in the book, is it not? When you are in a hole and the truth is closing in, quickly point a finger at someone else and shout, "Squirrel!" It is a deliberate smokescreen, a political magician's trick, which the left hand waving frantically at Farage, while the right hand is hiding 5 rather large, inconvenient truths. It is transparent, it is pathetic, and frankly, it is an insult to the intelligence of the British public. Therefore, here we are, 5 lies, a national security scandal, a Prime Minister seemingly encased in Teflon, and opposition to the government that exists within the government itself, and a media spectacle focused on everything but the central, rotting core of the issue. It is not about left or right. It is not about Brexit or Remain. This is about something far more fundamental. It is about truth. It is about the basic contract between the governed and those who govern. It is if that contract is torn up and then used as a doormat, then what, pray tell, are we left with? We are now left with a system where a man can stand at the dispatch box, look his colleagues and the country in the eye and say things he knows not to be true. Not once in a moment of heat, but 5 times in cold blood. On top of that, the only consequence is the faint rustling sound of that metaphorical tumbleweed. It is enough to make an old man grumpy, even here in Nissan's paradise. Therefore, I have had my say. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Am I just a cantankerous old git shouting at the clouds from 6,000 miles away? On the other hand, does this completely sorry business stick in your claw as well? Let me know down in the comments. What is the number of lies that should trigger a consequence? Let's have a proper debate. Furthermore, if you agree that accountability should mean more than just a stale piece of cake, well, share this around. Let us see if we cannot make a little noise that is louder than the infernal tumbleweed. Now, if you will excuse me, my drink needs refreshing and I have a mango to eat. At least I can trust the mango. Goodbye and good luck to all in broken Britain.